The Rashidun Caliphate, 632 to 661 CE. Following the death of the Prophet Muhammad in 632, the Muslim community held a meeting to elect a new leader. This meeting, however, would cause conflict within the community, as some wished to just elect a new leader, while others, such as Abu Bakr, declared that only those of the Quraysh tribe that Muhammad had been from could become the new leader of Islam. To end the conflict, one of the candidates, Umar, swore his allegiance to Abu Bakr. Most of the people in the room followed suit. Abu Bakr became the new caliph of the Rashidun Caliphate, and although some conflict arose over the hurriedness of his rise to power, it was quickly solved. Following Muhammad's death, tribes all across the Arabian Peninsula began to abandon Islam. Some tribal leaders declared themselves prophets following Muhammad's death, including the leader of Al-Yamama. The leader of the Al-Yamama tribe was Musaylima. Tribes across the peninsula had declared that they had pledged their allegiance to Muhammad, and with his death came the end of their allegiance. On the other hand, Caliph Abu Bakr declared that they had joined the Islamic community, of which he was the new head of. The culmination of all these disputes were the Ridda Wars, Abu Bakr's campaigns to take down the rebelling tribes. Over the next year, Abu Bakr and his top general Khalid ibn al-Walid would launch multiple attacks across the Arabian Peninsula. The most dangerous of Abu Bakr's enemies was Musaylima and his allies in Al-Yamama. The rivalry between the Rashidun Caliphate and Al-Yamama would culminate in the Battle of Yamama, where Khalid ibn al-Walid would defeat Musaylima. Only a year after Muhammad's death, the Arabian Peninsula was reunited under the new Caliph Abu Bakr. Following the conquest of Arabia, Abu Bakr began a conquest of both the Sasanian and Byzantine empires to the north. Both empires had been warring between each other for many years, and they were not expecting the Rashidun Caliphate to join in on this war, and so, when they did, they were woefully unprepared. It's unknown how much Abu Bakr wanted from the two empires. However, with the weakened state of the two empires, Abu Bakr got a lot more than what he wanted. The conquest would begin when Abu Bakr demanded that Khalid ibn al-Walid's army attack the resource-rich Sasanian province of Mesopotamia. 4 other armies were sent to conquer the Byzantine province of Syria. However, the operation didn't go through until Khalid came back from his successful operation in Mesopotamia in 634. In 634, Abu Bakr contracted an illness, and he would appoint the first man who had pledged his allegiance to him, Umar, as his successor. The new Caliph Umar continued his predecessor's advancements into the Sasanian and Byzantine empires. Under Umar's rule, they pushed further into the Sasanian Empire and north into Byzantine Anatolia and into Byzantine Egypt. By 640, nearly all of the Levant was under Rashidun control. By 642, Egypt had fallen under their control, and by 643, nearly the entire Sasanian Empire had been conquered by the Rashiduns. The military conquests of Umar were extremely successful, and back home, he himself was a good leader to his people. Unlike many leaders of the time, Umar did not require his subjects to convert to Islam, change their language, or change their culture, instead leaving them relatively untouched, besides imposing a governor upon them. Despite being a good leader to most of his people, slavery still existed, which would come back to bite him, when in 644, while leading the morning prayers, he was assassinated by a Persian slave. Prior to his death, he elected a committee of 6 men to decide who the next ruler of the Rashidun Caliphate would be. The committee decided on a man by the name of Uthman, who would succeed Umar as the next caliph of the Rashidun Caliphate. Uthman would face minor opposition from a candidate named Ali, who was not chosen to be caliph by the committee. Uthman was widely popular amongst the population of the Rashidun Caliphate, and under his rule, Northern Africa, Cyprus, Rhodes, and the entire Sasanian Empire would be brought under the control of the empire. Although very popular in his early years as caliph, he would soon face protests across the caliphate. One of these protests would even end up storming his house, which would lead to his death when the protesters assassinated him. It would later be found out that the protests that killed Uthman would largely be instigated by supporters of Ali, the opposing candidate for caliph. Following Uthman's assassination, Ali, the same man whose supporters had assassinated Uthman in the first place, would assume power as the caliph of the Rashidun Caliphate. Ali's reign was met with immediate controversy and rebellions against him. Immediately upon gaining power, Ali would dismiss governors who were related to Uthman, and he would replace them with his own trusted aides. Immediately, a massive rebellion would break out against Ali, who refused to investigate the assassination of Uthman. The rebels would take the city of Basra and would execute 4,000 suspected assassins. Ali would march his army to Basra, and while both sides initially didn't want to fight, a well-known story goes that the assassins of Uthman attacked the opposing side in the middle of the night, fearing that they would be handed to the rebels. Therefore, this would initiate the Battle of the Camel, which Ali would win. 2 of the rebel leaders were killed in the battle, and the third was sent back to Medina to be imprisoned. However, despite this rebellion being put down, multiple more would immediately rise up, the biggest of which being led by the former governor of Syria under Uthman, Muawiyah. Ali and Muawiyah's forces would fight to a stalemate at the Battle of Siffin, which would only lead to more of Ali's supporters defecting to Muawiyah's side. Along with Muawiyah's rebellion, Ali also had to face the Kharijites, a faction of his former supporters, who supported neither side. Weakened by all the rebellions, Ali lost control of most of his empire to Muawiyah, while most parts were taken up by other empires. In 661, Ali was assassinated in a Kharijite plot to end the civil war by assassinating Islamic leaders. For a very brief time, Ali's son Hassan would succeed him. However, he also would be assassinated by the Kharijites, which would lead to Muawiyah taking over what was left of the Rashidun Caliphate. With the Caliphate greatly weakened, Muawiyah would establish himself as the new caliph not of the Rashidun Caliphate, but of the newly established Umayyad Caliphate, bringing the Rashidun Caliphate to an end. Thank you for watching this video on the Rashidun Caliphate 632 to 661.